the older that you get and closer you get to retirement, the more likely is you're going to have these contract roles. That is the way of the future.
Hi, welcome to Over 50 TV. My name is Lou Reyes. And as you know, today is Joric McLean Day, I like to say. And it's really a day where I asked Joric to come on with us. And Joric, as many of you know, Joric was a former HR manager for the Phoenix Suns. He's also got 2 decades worth of experience in HR. Joric pulls no punches. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really love to have Joric on here to answer your questions, because you're going to get an insight you won't get anywhere else. So Joric McLean, welcome to Over 50 TV.
Hey, glad to be back. Looking forward to answering some more questions and giving some advice.
Well, I am glad you're here, Joric. And just so the viewers know, you are in Lisbon. Was it Lisbon, Portugal? Is that where
Portugal?
It's at? Portugal.
That's
yeah.
it.
So
I'm far enough away so that people that don't like HR, it's kind of hard to find me. They can't find me on the streets.
Yeah, that may work to your benefit, Joric.
Yes.
Well, listen, today what I want to do is address a question or a comment actually that keeps popping up on Over 50 TV. And this question, I'm going to read a couple of the comments that I got. And actually, somebody's asking for advice. I mean, they're kind of desperate, it seems like. But these are things that keep popping up on our channel. And I really want to address them. And let me just start out, Joric, by reading one of the comments I got. It says here, I'm seeing more contract jobs on LinkedIn and Indeed, etc., as opposed to permanent positions. It seems these companies are playing it safe by hiring contract workers as it is cheaper, meaning no benefits. He's got that in parentheses. And he says it's easier to let go of people for whatever reason. Now, this is a guy, Tiger Byrne is the name on their channel. But Tiger really just kind of just repeated what I got from another person, from a Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. And Knight was responding to a video we did on called Working After 50, What Does HR Really Say About You During a Reference Check? So Tiger Burns responding to Knight. Knight was not complaining, but asking a question. Knight saying, hey, I'm looking for advice. What's going on here? He says, my resume shows 3 12-month positions. They're all contract work. It's difficult to find a full-time permanent position. I'm 55. And he said he's spoken to friends of his who seem to be in similar situations. Joric, do you see this as a trend? Is it a trend for everyone in general, or is it a trend just for people over 50 not being hired in permanent positions?
Those are some great observations and great question there. I will speak specifically to over 50. It's become a trend that I'll go as far as to say that I think it's going to be the norm. I think the people that are over 50, as we are, if you're working for an organization, a company, and you're not working for yourself, this is going to happen more often where you will be let go. I will say the 2008 financial crisis, I had a number of friends and family, blue collar and white collar positions in the Midwest in the automotive business. I had one guy, he was making $40 an hour, great benefits, great pension and whatnot. He got let go. He got rehired back at $9 an hour. I kid you not, to do the same job. And that was a way that they could still keep them on and get benefits, but then they gutted the wage. So you still had good benefits and you still had your pension, but you couldn't pay your bills anymore. For over 50 workers, this whole contract or 1099, which is what many people will know in the US, that is the way of the future when it comes to many businesses. That's because it's not only you're cutting out benefits. So yes, the employee is not getting it. The employer doesn't have to pay for it, but there's a lot of other taxes and other things that the business does not have to take on, insurance costs, but also paying unemployment, things of that nature, because you're off on your own. So yeah, as businesses scale down and get smaller, I expect more companies are going to have this group of 1099 or self-employed that kind of come in out of the business. And if you're younger, I'll give you this example that just came up just this week. I saw someplace in the US, an ice cream shop. So a shop that used to just hire high school students, or let's say university students, they just upped their wage to $15 an hour, and several thousand people applied. about 1% of that were high school kids or kids in trade school or out of high school or in college. 99% were working like the rest of us. They've had a hard time getting a job, but it was a full-time job. It did offer benefits, I believe, and it wasn't contract work. And I've found it myself when I've looked at work, whether it be in Europe or back in the US, doing some consultant work. Now, granted, I'm in a consultant role, but most of the jobs that have been offered to me in the last 2 years since leaving the US, contract, here, a 3-month deal, 6-month deal. When I look for permanent full-time work, no, we're not interested in that. But we're interested in you, but at 6 months that you're 1099 and we'll give you a reduced wage or a reduced rate. That is unfortunate. And I think this is where businesses are going. They're finding every little way to cut and find margin. And labor is often one of the biggest expenses to a business. And this is a way to cut into that, unfortunately, but still get production, albeit from quote unquote outside work versus inside full-time or part-time employees.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, Joric, because I've seen this myself here in the States. I know, in Europe, I'm assuming it's the same way. Okay, you're talking about businesses that are smaller. But businesses in general, even larger companies, what I've seen is, they're bringing people on, and many of them are bringing them on part-time or as contract work. I know a big retailer like a Target, what I saw what Target did was they increased their wages to $15 an hour. They bragged about increasing their wages, but what they did then is they cut people's hours, and then they expected more from each worker. So, you know what? It's whether it's a small company or a large company, it just seems it is that philosophy or that strategy is infecting all businesses, no matter what size.
Yeah, in fact, not just Target, but there's some other big names that I won't go into, but people could look up that offer $15, $20 an hour. So it leads the news line, the headline. But when you look at it, it's 4 hours, so 20 hours a week. They cap the amount of hours. They don't allow overtime so that you're not going to be in a situation, to your point, that you're going to get benefits and then become a full-time employee, which creates a whole lot of cost for that business. To both of those comments at the top of this segment, that is, I think almost at any age, people are going to face that. But if you're over 50 and you want to continue to working, let's say 62, 65, 67, 70 or beyond, that's going to be the lion's share of work. If you're looking for a job for benefits, especially, as all of our health seems to go south as we get older, those are harder to get. I don't have advice as to get it other than take some of the contract work, keep plugging away. The fact that it's on your resume doesn't hurt. It shows that you're employed. That's a good thing. You don't have any gaps. Some people look at that as good or bad. So I wouldn't worry about the type of work you are working, but I would keep working those 1099 or self-employment quickie contract jobs and keep applying for a full-time permanent position. I mean, it's kind of like the lottery. You hope that you can, but the older that you get and closer you get to retirement, the more likely is you're going to have these contract roles.
Well, so you're saying there's really you're saying at this point really that there's no solution. This is the approach that businesses are taking.
Yeah, I keep getting so that you keep getting a paycheck in, but keep applying. The difficulty, though, is that you're going to come to a point where you will reach an age where are you still feeling young enough to do something on your own, kind of like the side hustles and what you talked about for the last couple of years? Or do you just say, okay, I need to get my hours somehow, or you might need to do a couple of these jobs or find one where you can work enough to where you get the entry-level benefits. This is a way that people or businesses have been able to squeeze, especially Boomer and Gen X employees. But I don't see that the U.S. is changing that anytime soon.
No, I don't see it changing at all. If anything, I think you're going to see an acceleration of this strategy or this approach to working with workers. And I know some people may disagree with me out there who are watching this segment, but I think this is a consequence. It's a consequence of the fact that the unions have become weaker. There's no representation, or a lot less representation workers have. So the consequence is seeing this trend happen. We're seeing people, unfortunately, are just having to take or accept contract work. Now, you did bring something up, and I want to just say this really quick and get your opinion on it. What should a person do who is taking 2 of these jobs? Is there some other thing? We talked about side hustle. I mean, what do you suggest?
If it's financially feasible to do, meaning it's not paycheck to paycheck and they have some money put away, find one of those jobs that is contract that you like, or you can at least stand to go to work and get paid. Yeah. And I would also take time, those 3 or 4 hours a day that you were working in a full-time job, and focus on yourself and figure out what you can do between the age of 60 and 70, or 65 and 70, or let's say 75, something you can do on your own, a side hustle or side hustles. And as you've explored and as you exposed this to many people, there are a number of things that people have done that they felt in a dead-end career. They felt like they couldn't do anything. Yes, they've got this contract work that's ending in 3 months, but then they decided they're going to do something. And whether it be social media, YouTube, you name it, they were able to get into something different. And I really think that as American businesses, North American businesses think even less of employees. They used to care. I won't say they ever cared, but at least it sounded like it. Now, most people, they at least know businesses don't care. You are just a number. Yeah. Focus on yourself for whatever time you got left. And it can't hurt. I mean, it doesn't cost much to invest in yourself and invest in a side business or starting something up. And do that in your free time while you're still paying the bills with this side gig, which used to be a full-time job that's now a half-time job.
Joric, I couldn't have said it better myself. I really couldn't. And that may be the only solution to this whole issue, where workers are now seeing themselves being basically contract workers instead of employees. And we see the trend accelerating. But Joric, I want to thank you so much for answering this question, for addressing this issue, because it is very important. And we're seeing this more and more in our country and really in workplaces around the world. So thanks again, Joric, for joining us here on Over 50 TV.
Hey, thank you so much. Happy being here. It's a somber message, but I think people need to know what's going on.